Good morning. I hope all of you are doing wonderful today. I'm Angela Naff, and I'm Reckitt's Chief R&D Officer, and I am just super excited to welcome the Prime Minister and all of you to our Reckitt Hull campus today. Reckitt, you know, is the home of some of the world's most iconic brands. Best consumer-loved brands, things like Dettol, Durex, Finish, and Nurofen. People come to us because they trust us to care for the ones that they love. And this building that we're in is our largest global science and innovation center globally. You can see here the laboratories, people busy at work every day making game-changing solutions to really power the self-care moment and movement within our company. These products give consumers the power to support their own health, reducing the burden on healthcare systems around the world. In fact, according to an Oxford economics analysis, Reckitt supported savings of over £307 million for the NHS in 2023. Pretty impressive. I thought you might like that. So I'm sure it's a great place for us to start our conversation here today. But I also have to say this site is actually where it all began for Reckitt & Sons. So it was back in 1840. We had an opportunity to go to the Heritage Center and spend a few moments. But just think of the legacy, the heritage, all that we've created here, but we're not done. Of course, we look to our past in terms of the greatness and the things that we've been able to accomplish, but it's all about also moving into the future. So very excited to have you be part of that today. So as well as being a major R&D center for Reckitt, we also are a manufacturing facility here located in Hull. And we actually make some of our world-leading power brands from this location, and we export them to over 70 countries globally. We are also committed to playing our role in terms of the community. So we spend a lot of time with local universities, colleges, schools, really involved in creating opportunities for science and technology and innovation careers for all of the amazing people that you see here today, but also into the future. And as a leading British business, we support the government's #1 mission, which is about driving growth. So Prime Minister, we are absolutely honored to have you here with us today and look forward to hearing more from you. Please, everybody, welcome the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
Well, thank you, Angela, and thanks to all of you for being here this morning. It's really fantastic to see here, to be able to be here, to see you, and to celebrate what you're doing. This must be an incredibly exciting place to work, because, as Angela said, I went and saw the first bottle of Dettol that you have just in the room around the corner. I think it's 1833 that bottle was made. And for sepsis, what a breakthrough that was, and then so much that's happened in the intervening years. And as we are here, we've got scientists in the labs working on probably the next breakthrough that you will be involved in. So it's really fantastic to come here to talk to you. I've just got a few words to say about the way I see the government playing its part in taking our country forward. Then I've got some questions from you. But let me start with the pledge that we put before you and everybody in the country at the election, because it was a really simple pledge, a really simple pledge. It was on every leaflet, on every advert, on every speech that we all gave. And that word, that pledge, was change. Change. And that wasn't just about an offer to the British people. It was actually a statement about the world that we now live in. Change, because we're in a changing world, and I think you can feel it every day. Great forces buffeting and impacting on the lives of working people. Particularly at the moment globally, where there's an instability, I think, that we can feel that hasn't been there for years, developing before our very eyes in relation to the impact it has on the insecurity of working people across the country. And that's why everything that we're doing in relation to Ukraine is so important. And you've seen the developments in the recent weeks, developments this week, going on even today, because I profoundly believe that if we don't secure a just, peace and a lasting peace, then that insecurity, which we've already felt, will continue. And that means here higher prices, higher bills, the cost of living crisis going on for even longer. If you like, a chokehold on our future, which will be much, much harder for us to tackle. And look, we know some basics. Putin's appetite for conflict and for chaos is already there, and it will only grow. And Russia is already menacing our skies, our waters, our streets, and our national security. And that's why I believe the fundamental task of politics right now is to take the tough decisions on security. And that's why we raised our defence spending, which we also need to use as an opportunity to renew our communities. Because if you like, more now than ever, national security is economic security. And strength abroad, and we definitely need that more than ever at the moment, but that demands security back at home. Because, look, you're not strong if your energy security is exploited by Putin. You're not strong if 1 in 8 young people are not in education or work. And you're not strong if you lose control of your public finances and you can't build your industries. So that is the test of our times. The goal of my plan for change. National security for national renewal. Now look, we are making a start. We're already delivering on this, securing the future through our plan for change, on the priorities that matter to you and to working people across the country. So wages are now going up faster than prices. That's hugely important. We're clearing the asylum backlog at a record rate. And NHS waiting lists are coming down. Now, when we started preparing for today, I was going to say waiting lists have been coming down for 4 months. I can tell you today, the stats have just come out, they've been coming down now for 5 months in a row. And that's in winter. It's really hard to get waiting lists down in winter because, as you know, the pressure on the NHS is much greater in the winter. So that's 5 months of waiting lists coming down. So that's the beginning of the delivery that we need. But given what's happening globally, given the insecurity in our country, now is the time, in my belief, for greater urgency and to go further and faster on what we need to do on security and renewal. So every pound that we spend, every regulation, every decision must deliver for working people. And I don't just mean efficiency, although doing what you're doing, you'll know how important efficiency is. I mean something else, which is allowing the state, the government, to operate at what I call maximum power. So reforming it so it's closer to its communities, tearing down the walls of Westminster, inviting the British people in as partners in the business of change. To some extent, you're already doing that in the work you're doing with the NHS, as partners of the change that we need to do. Having national missions that galvanise the entire country behind them. Businesses, unions, charities, pulling together. The pride that we all have in our country, harnessed to rebuild Britain. Now, I believe in the power of government. I've always believed in the power of government. And I've seen it at its best. I'll give you one example from last year in the summer, when we had those terrible riots. Because what we saw then in response was dynamic, it was strong, it was urgent. It was what I call active government, on the pitch, doing what was needed, acting. But for many of us, I think, the feeling is we don't really have that everywhere all of the time at the moment. At the moment, the state employs more people than we've employed for decades. And yet look around the country. Do you see good value everywhere? Because I don't. I actually think it's weaker than it's ever been. Overstretched, unfocused, trying to do too much, doing it badly, unable to deliver the security that people need. Now, I believe that working people want an active government. They don't want a weak state. They want it to secure our future. If you like, to take the big decisions so they can get on with their lives. So we don't want a bigger state, a more intrusive state, an over-expanding state, a state that demands more and more of people as it itself fails to deliver on core purposes. So we've got to change things. Now, the good news is technology can massively help. If we push forward with digital reform of government, and we are going to do that, we can make massive savings, £45 billion of savings in efficiencies. And AI is a golden opportunity. You will already be thinking about how you use it in your work. And that's an opportunity we're determined to seize. So we're going to get the best of the best on AI working across government. I'm going to send teams into every government department with a clear mission from me to make the state more innovative and more efficient. But we also need to go further and faster on regulation. I want to be really clear about this. This is not about questioning the dedication or the effort of civil servants. It's about the system that we've got in place. And that system, in the end, was created by politicians. The buck stops with us. But that's just it, because over a number of years, politicians have chosen to hide behind vast arrays of quangos, arm's-length bodies, regulators, reviews, you name it, a sort of cottage industry of checkers and blockers, using taxpayer money to stop the government delivering on taxpayer priorities. Now, take our plan to build 1.5 million homes. Now, that is to restore the dream of home ownership, the opportunity and aspiration that home ownership gives people. I've always described it as a sort of base camp for life, the security of your own roof over your head. So 1.5 million homes is what we say we'll build. Now, look, that is controversial. There are people across the country who don't think we should do that. And we always knew it was going to be contentious. We knew that before the election. And that's why we put it front and centre in our manifesto. Because we knew we needed a clear democratic mandate to do what we wanted to do, what we need to do. And we got that at the election. And now we've put it in our plan for change. Yet some parts of the state haven't got the memo. I'll give you an example. There's an office conversion in Bingley, which, as you know, is in Yorkshire. That is an office conversion that will create 139 homes. But now the future of that is uncertain because the regulator was not properly consulted on the power of cricket balls. That's 139 homes. Now just think of the people, the families, the individuals who want those homes, to buy those homes, to make their life, and now they're held up. Why? You'll decide whether this is a good reason. Because, and I'm going to quote, this is the reason, because the ball strike assessment doesn't appear to have been undertaken by a specialist qualified consultant. So that's what's holding up these 139 homes. And if you put that in its context, people across Britain are frustrated. They don't think politics works for them. That it doesn't deliver on its promises. And how can you justify that in such circumstances? That parts of the state see their job as blocking the government from doing the very things that it was elected to do. You can't justify it. And it's a pattern. I'll give you another example. Environmental regulators stopping clean energy investment. Let's think about that for a moment. Clean energy, really good for the environment. Struggling to get done because of environmental regulators. It doesn't make sense. Jumping spiders, stopping an entire new town. I've not made that example up. That's where we've got to. Infrastructure projects requiring planning documents that are literally longer than the entire works of Shakespeare. We've created a watchdog state, completely out of whack with the priorities of the British people. And it's unfit for the volatile and insecure world that we live in. Now, I don't think for 1 second that's what public servants want to do. You walk around Whitehall, I know we're recruiting some of the best talent in the country. People who join the civil service because they want to serve their country by delivering change. Yet somehow we take that energy, that pride, that patriotism, and we misdirect it into blocking. Well, that's got to end. No more. We were elected to take on the blockers and to deliver change. And that is what we'll do. So we're going to stop the cynical legal challenges that stop building. Cut statutory consultees who can veto government activity. Hack back the thicket of red tape that stops us getting things done. And look, there's no need to compromise on important things like building standards. And there's no good reason that building and nature have to be pitted against each other on every single site. We can have the best of both. Less regulation, more building, and a massive scale up in nature with a new nature restoration fund. And if you think this is hard enough for the government and the state, and it is, and we're frustrated, and we're going to change it, imagine what it feels like for small businesses. Now, I speak to small businesses a lot, and I spoke to a brewer. She's called Alison from Carlisle, brews beer. She tells me it's proper beer. I'm going to take her up on that and test it. But I'm really struck talking to her how difficult we make it for people like her, enterprising people, to just get on with the job. Trading standards advice, which changes constantly. Long forms on business rates. Not able to get clear advice when they're trying to help. The example she gave was a boiler grant. And nobody could advise whether their business was eligible for it or not. Turns out it wasn't. But she only found that out after hours and hours and hours of going around the roundabouts, filling in paperwork. That's precious time if you run a business, and precious money. Wasted. So that's got to stop. And that's why today I'm issuing a new target for our government. We will make sure compliance costs for businesses are cut by a quarter. Yeah, that's 25% compliance costs that are going to go, and they will. That's less red tape, more delivery, renewing our country with growth. And look, some people are going to say to me, good luck. We've heard all this before, and we've heard some of that already this week. And to some extent, they're right, because the Tories did talk tough and failed to deliver. But that raises the question, why is this time different? What was that all about? First, as ever, you can't discount the chaos that we had under the last government. Then there's the ideology. They never really believed in getting Britain building. Didn't believe in the power of government, which I do. Quite happy to be enfeebled by regulation. But I think there's something deeper about Westminster politics here, which is really important for us to understand, which is there's a knee-jerk response to difficult questions, to difficult lobbies. And the response goes like this: let's create an agency, start a consultation, make it statutory, have a review, until slowly, almost by stealth, democratic accountability is swept under a regulatory carpet. Politicians almost not trusting themselves, outsourcing everything to different bodies because things have happened along the way, to a point where you can't get things done. And I accept that all parties have done a bit of this, including the Labour Party. And therefore today's got to be a line in the sand for all of us. But I also think that in government there was a clear moment when the Tories crossed the Rubicon. It was early and it was decisive. And it sent a signal across Whitehall that was never undone. So today I'm going to reverse it. Because I don't see why decisions about £200 billion of taxpayer money on something as fundamental to our security as the NHS should be taken by an arm's-length body NHS England. And I can't, in all honesty, explain to the British people why they should spend their money on 2 layers of bureaucracy. That money could and should be spent on nurses, doctors, operation, GP appointments. So today I can announce we're going to cut bureaucracy across the state, focus government on the priorities of working people, shift money to the front line. So I'm bringing management of the NHS back into democratic control by abolishing the arm's-length body NHS England. That will put the NHS back at the heart of government where it belongs, freeing it to focus on patients, less bureaucracy, with more money for nurses, an NHS refocused on cutting waiting times at your hospital. Now, tough choices won't just stop there. In this era, they will keep on coming. Our task is clear: national security, national renewal, driving change forward with a plan for change, focused on the interests of working people, securing our future. Do we need the microphone? So who's got a question? Let's go here first.
Minister,
Morning.
I currently suffer for looked at everyday
I'm sorry,
house.
I'm sure.
Are in the hospital
Yeah.
environment, and I also see a lot of patients that were removing an
Got a communications team in the once. If we strip that out, which front line to a problem, we should all think they're brilliant problems every day. So we want to make sure that power is pushed to them and away from the bureaucracy which often holds them up. There are many other decisions that need to be taken. I think technology and AI can play a brilliant part in the NHS. There's AI with a stethoscope, you may have seen this, for people who are over the age of about 50 or 60, can detect anyone who's going to have before they have that problem with their heart, which is obviously much better for them and much better for the health service as well. So there are things that we can do, but we've got to be active and get on with it. There's almost there's a parallel in a way with what's going on internationally. Actually, we're moving at the pace of the slowest response. Thank you for being
Incredible place to work.
Yeah.